Okay.
I will move to reconvene.
All right, very good. We have a motion to reconvene. Alderman Gerhart, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We have reconvened in the Jeannie Seelig room, and we are on action item 6A. So Greg, I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you. So in each of these TIF districts, there are some commonalities in terms of the types of projects that are included as eligible expenses. So each of the project plans includes some specific infrastructure costs, some allowances for developer incentives, and ongoing costs of the TID district in terms of audit, TID reporting, legal review of projects. So any development incentive that is provided is subject to a developer pro forma review per the city's policy that also requires a development agreement. Typically, incentives that the city offers are on a pay-as-you-go basis, meaning if the increment from the project is sufficient to pay the incentive, the cost is reimbursed in full. If there's a shortfall, the city is not required to make up that shortfall. All of the project plans, while they include a specific listing of the eligible project costs, it's important to note that approval of a project plan does not commit the city to undertake any of the costs or projects. It just makes them TID eligible expenses. All of the projects require separate authorization and approval by the Common Council. One of the legal tests that has to be satisfied anytime a district is amended or created is what's called the equalized value test. And what that means is the incremental value of existing districts plus the base value of either the proposed territory being added to the district in the case of TID 10 or the existing value of the parcels in TID 16 and TID 17. So again, that's the incremental value of existing TIDs plus the parcels being added to the new districts. That combined total cannot exceed 12% of the city's total equalized value. That test is made independently for each of these TIF districts. And so all three satisfy that test, which just means legally the city is in position to create that district. We did update this test based off of the preliminary equalized values as of January 1, 2023 that were released last week. Next, we'll get into the details of each of the proposed TID actions. First is the TID amendment for TID district number 10. There's a map inset that shows the areas in blue where the dark blue is the original boundary of the district. Light blue showed the original territory that was added through the first amendment. And then the areas highlighted in red are the territory that's being added through this proposed amendment. So the purpose of the amendment is to identify some specific public infrastructure improvements, allowances for development incentives, determined to help facilitate ongoing redevelopment within the district. As I mentioned, all of these districts are rehabilitation districts, so not less than 50% of the area within the district has to meet the statutory definition of an area in need of rehabilitation or conservation. So to that end, for TID district number 10, for just the amended area, we worked with city staff to kind of make findings of which of the parcels being added through this amendment kind of meet that rehabilitation criteria. A lot of the criteria really centers on some existing infrastructure deficiencies for the property, specifically some improvements necessary for Bryant Road and just some access improvements that are necessary. So that's part of the rehabilitation criteria is addressing some inefficient infrastructure. And so the area that's being added, a lot of it meets that rehabilitation criteria. Since this is an existing district, we're required to make a finding for the district as a whole to make sure that we're over that 50% threshold. So we look at all the acreage within the district, what was included in the original creation, the first amendment back in 2018, this proposed amendment at number 2, and then all of the right-of-way within the district. So 75% of the area within the district meets the rehabilitation criteria, so we're over that legal threshold. We just included the original costs that were included in the original project plan, and amendment number 1 was kind of a mix of infrastructure improvements. The city retains all that original expenditure authority under the original district. For the proposed amendment, I mentioned we added some specific infrastructure projects for Bryant Road, some stormwater management improvements, and also some allowances for bus rapid transit system upgrades and improvements. So the total TID eligible cost is approximately $9.1 million that's being added through this amendment. So just a summary of the analysis for TID District number 10. We've only forecasted the incremental value from projects that are under construction. The estimated tax increment collected over the full life of the district is estimated at about $49 million. We've done a cash flow model illustration that shows how project costs could be funded. Again, by approving a project plan, you're not committing to any expense, you're just making them a TID eligible expense if those projects move forward. If everything was funded within the district, the projected closure is in year 2042. So we've just projected some new value for projects that are already under construction and plus the existing incremental value that's already in existence within the district. So again, that generates about $49.1 million over the 27-year life of the district. In terms of the existing expenses that are already been incurred within the district, there's some development incentives for the Plesco project for 3101 South Fitchburg Road, and then there was debt issuances in 2019 and 2020 to fund the TID 10 portion of the Fitchburg Road improvements. Then there's also a development incentive for some of the improvements out on Ocala, the developments out there. And then we show some potential future projects, some development incentives, and future infrastructure projects. So again, shows that the TID district could, close potentially a few years early, but the district's really intended to be in place to help fund those improvements long term. So again, TID 10 is just an amendment, adding territory, increasing the eligible project costs. That's the overview of TID 10.
Very good, thank you, Greg. Questions, discussions from the committee?
Could I just add one thing?
Yes, go
One
ahead.
item in the project cost is we added some development incentive capacity for potentially the multifamily building on Avalon, called Avalon off of Index Road. That currently is going to be a market rate building, but we're working with our team at Ellers on a program to incorporate affordable units with a market rate at 60% of median income with 10% of the units. And so if we are successful with the TID being approved and the program parameters and the venture capital comfortable with the program, that might be our pilot program to incorporate affordable with the market rate building. So we just added capacity in case we move forward with that.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. All right, questions, discussion from the committee? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next action item, which is action item 6B. Do we have a motion to move Resolution R-138-23 and Plan Commission Resolution PCR-03-23, creating tax incremental district number 16, approving its project plan and establishing its boundaries. City of Fitchburg, Wisconsin, Plan Commission Resolution PCR-03-23, establishing the boundaries of and approving the project plan for tax incremental district number 16.
I move approval.
All right. Alder Wheeler is motion for approval. And Greg, am I turning this back over to you then, or?
Sure, just a quick overview of this district as well. So as mentioned, this kind of includes the Rimrock area that was kind of identified for some redevelopment opportunities. This is also a rehabilitation TID district, so the area highlighted in green is the proposed boundary of this particular district. Similar to the TID 10 amendment, includes some specific public infrastructure improvement costs, also allowances for development incentives that could be awarded as the city determines to help facilitate some redevelopment opportunities. In terms of the rehabilitation criteria for this TIF district, kind of has similar findings in terms of the overall area. There's just some areas where there could be some reinvestment in some existing properties to just kind of address some conditions just to kind of get to a higher or better use. And then we've also identified some underutilized properties that would benefit from some of the proposed infrastructure improvements. So in terms of the overall area within the district, the total acreage is approximately 61 acres. About 34.5 of those acres meet the rehabilitation criteria. So we're at 57%, which is within the statutory requirements. In terms of the specific project costs that have been identified, the extension of Latitude 43 Drive and some of the related sidewalk and driveway improvements, again, allowances for development incentives or CETA contributions, updates to the neighborhood plans, general wayfinding and signage and placemaking improvements, some multi-use path improvements, and some stormwater improvements. So the total cost identified is $19.6 million. The TID portion of this, that's TID eligible, is about $18.7 million. Portions of these projects benefit areas outside the TID district. So under the TID statutes, those have to be paid by non-TID funds. But the majority of these costs would be TID eligible expenses for TID 16. Similar financial analysis, it's really an illustration just to show the full build-out potential of the district. That's estimated to generate about $94 million of taxable value. Over the 27-year life of the TID district, that would generate about $39 million in tax increment revenue collection. The cash flow model is an illustration only of how projects could be funded. The projected closure is in 2043. So we went through all the parcels that are in the proposed TID district, worked with city staff to kind of identify potential uses and potential timing of incremental value within the district. Again, this is just an illustration of the full build-out potential of about $94 million of incremental value. That again generates a little over $38 million of tax increment revenue to the district. And so if some of those infrastructure costs are kind of phased in as increment gets generated, if development incentives would be offered, we've kind of illustrated some financing of capital improvement projects once that increment gets generated, and then 3 development incentives just as illustrations in terms of what the district could support. Shows that the district could potentially close early, especially if that incremental value is generated early on. So really the key to kind of successful financial management of a TIF district, which the city has done very well historically, is to match the pace of investment with the pace of development. So as that development occurs and that incremental value results in tax increment collection, that's the opportunity to start looking at phasing in public infrastructure improvements or offering the development incentives. So this just illustrates the capability of this TIF district. So that's the overview of TIF District 16.
Very good. Mike, anything to add on this?
I would just add the development assumptions for the land that the Alexander Company still owns came from them. And that includes some of the projects west of Rutabaga and then south of the pond that have been kind of in the queue, and they've been kind of waiting for us to move forward with the tax increment district.
Very good.
We'll see those projects come forward.
Questions, discussion from the committee? Alder Gerhart.
Some of these units are housing currently, is that correct? Could you show where the housing is on the map?
We didn't include a lot of the multifamily housing at this point in time.
So
The older multifamily that's there in the larger complexes. And the reason for that is we just wanted to make sure that we didn't have a lot of issues with decrement that we would have to make up in the district. And the other reason is we included money to update the Southdale neighborhood plan. And as part of that, we want to do some good communication and outreach to those property owners there. And then we'll have a better game plan on kind of what their future is over there, and then maybe we'll come back and do an amendment to this TID.
So none of these,
better information.
None of these right now are housing.
There's some single family along Rimrock Road.
And
on
then there's some condos.
And then there's some of the condo units, that connects over from the commercial over to Ski Lane.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us then to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to the next action item, 6C. Motion to move Resolution R-139-23 and Plan Commission Resolution PCR-04-23, creating tax incremental district number 17, approving its project plan and establishing its boundaries, City of Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Plan Commission Resolution PCR-04-23, establishing the boundaries of and approving the project plan for tax incremental district number 17.
I move approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval by Alder Gerhart. Greg, once again, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So TID District 17, we show the map. Again, this kind of consists of the Arrowhead neighborhood area, the Anton Drive area as part of existing neighborhood plans that'll kind of be updated and reevaluated for development opportunities. Similar to TID District 16, we've identified specific public infrastructure improvements and allowances for development incentives to promote development within the area. This is a rehabilitation district as well, so that's the same statutory criteria that was applied for TID 10 and TID 16. So in terms of that rehabilitation finding, really a lot of the parcels that were included in this proposed district will kind of benefit from some kind of reconfiguration of the street network to have some additional street frontage based on the other broader highway improvements that were included in that area. So a lot of the parcels that were identified on Anton Drive, that's really the primary rehabilitation factor that's being addressed, is kind of addressing that street frontage and access for a lot of those properties. And then similarly for the balance of the district, it's again kind of really implementing some of the findings of the Anton development plan that was identified back in 2017. So the total acreage of this district is about 174 acres. We're at about 146 acres, meets the rehabilitation criteria, so we're at 85%, so well over that statutory finding. In terms of the project costs that we've identified, specific infrastructure includes the Anton Drive improvements themselves, both some resurfacing and some bike lanes, roundabout improvements, some sidewalk improvements, allowances for development incentives, similar to TID 16, wayfinding, placemaking, signage, streetscaping improvements, and then some other specific sidewalk improvements throughout the district. So about $24.5 million of project costs have been identified within this district. So similar to TID 16, we prepared a financial analysis just to look at the potential build out of this district. That illustration shows about $113 million of value, which would generate $48.6 million of tax increment revenue. The projected closure of the district is in 2046. So looking at all the various parcels, some anticipated land use was identified for each of the key development areas, along with some estimated value and timing of that construction over the 27-year life of the TID district. Again, that generates about $48.6 million of increment if that development value came to fruition over the 27 years. And then finally, we just included a similar cash flow projection that again shows phasing of infrastructure improvements once that increment is being generated, and just some illustrations of some development incentives as eligible project costs. So again, same message as with TID 16, the key is going to be matching the timing of the pace of those projects, whether it's infrastructure or development incentives, with the pace of development to match the expense with the revenue that comes in from the development. So that's the overview of TID District 17.
All right, very good. Thank you, Greg. Mike?
One other project cost item was you saw a relocation of a power line. There's a power line that runs on the north end of the Circo building right now. And in order for them to do a major expansion sometime in the future, it's not imminent, but that power line would have to be relocated and we'd have to work with both MG&E and Alliant. It gets real tricky there as far as the utility partners, but that's where we have some capacity in there for that to be able to happen.
Very good. Discussion from the committee. Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us into a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to action item 6D. Do I have a motion to move resolution R-142-23 authorizing acceptance of the 2023 street and park improvements bid, and this is a direct referral?
Move approval.
All right, a motion for approval made by Alder Wheeler. And Misty, are you starting or directly to Tim? Tim, you have the floor.
All right, so resolution R-142-23 is the 2023 street and park improvements bid. The city must reconstruct about 4 miles of roadway every year to keep up with maintenance demands. These streets meet the age, usage, and condition criteria for resurfacing. Therefore, we advertised this project back in June on the 16th and 22nd, and then on June 29th, we received 2 sealed bids And Payne and Dolan was the low bid in the amount of $2,674,829. Therefore, would like to award the contract to Payne and Dolan with a 10% contingency in the amount of $2,942,312. And there's a couple budget amendments associated with this. I'll let Misty maybe provide the detail regarding those.
Sure, so there's a couple of, I'll call them normal budget amendments, so the sewer piece of it, and I think the stormwater piece of it came in a little bit more than expected. So we're shifting some funds around from other projects, which we've done in the past. The one that's unique is we borrowed money as recent as 2020 for the Fish Hatchery Road project, and there was some additional unspent proceeds still available that I need to spend on street improvements. So this resolution also authorizes me to transfer 3.2 million of that unspent borrowed money into this CIP project. And then costs that have been through here on street improvements back to 2020, so in 21, 22, and then now in 23, will apply to those bond proceeds first, and then leave that tax levy capacity for future projects. So I have to spend the money on street improvements. That was what the bond required. We need to spend it relatively quickly because there's different requirements on how fast I spend it. And then this does free up money to have, so Public Works, as staff capacity allows, can do larger projects again in the near future and keep moving on that goal of, what was it, 4 miles a year, to help give some extra funding there.
All right, very good. Additional staff comments? Hearing none, I'll open it up for discussion from the committee. Yes, over here.
There was money budgeted this year for this purpose, and that money we will just use it for additional, are we using it this year? Is that part of the bid, or is that, I'm just confused in terms of like, what is the budgeted money? What are we doing with those funds?
So this conversation started because the bids did come in more than what the budgeted money was, and they needed some additional capacity. And so we thought this was a good time to address my other issue that I have of that unspent money. So we will spend that bond money first because it is an eligible expense and that has those restrictions on it. And then the money that doesn't have the restrictions will stay and be available for future projects.
And how far over budget were we?
Under? You mean on Fish Hatchery?
Over, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
on this project?
Yeah.
Oh, Tim, do you remember? I want to say it was 100,000.
Yeah, it was around there. We were close. They came in a little bit higher.
So it wasn't too much higher?
No.
Okay.
No.
And then in terms of like functionally how that works accounting wise, do we just roll this money over year to year? Okay. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do this. Okay, great. Thanks.
All right, additional questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to action item 6E. Do I have a motion to move resolution R-143-23, authorizing acceptance of 2023 ARPA street improvements bid? This is a direct referral as well.
I move approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart, and kick it off to Tim again. Go ahead, Tim.
So this is the 2023 ARPA street improvements bid. The 2023 capital projects fund budget included $1 million to be spent on street resurfacing within the qualified census tracts using ARPA funding. So within the QCT, we have about 10 streets that we would like to resurface. This project was also advertised back in June on the 16th and 22nd. And bids were opened on June 29th, and we received 2 sealed bids, and Payne and Dolan was the low bid at $1,047,013, and they were found to be in compliance with the bid specifications. So we're also looking to award this contract to Payne and Dolan, who was the contractor, also awarded the previous contract in the amount of $1,151,750, and this also includes a 10% contingency. And then with this project, there's also a budget amendment associated with that, and I'll let Misty kind of go into the detail regarding that.
So these were 2 weird budget issues right in a row. So on this one, so there was $1 million budgeted, and they went over that just on the base bid, not counting the contingency. So we knew we needed additional funding to pay for this project. And these QCT roads was something that was listed as a priority from the council. So we assumed that the goal was to still get this project done in its entirety. So the strategy we worked through and is what's included in here is there's the Wayland Road bike lane additions that was also included in the investment plan and in the 2023 budget using ARPA funds. ARPA money needs to be under contract by the end of 2024, and because of staff capacity, we don't think that's realistic. So what the proposal is we will take that Wayland Road project, still keep it on the table, but change the funding source instead of ARPA money to be the TID closure money. By moving that over to that other bucket, that frees up $830,000 of ARPA money that can be repurposed. So a portion of that would go towards this project, this amount that's over. There's also other couple projects that I suspect are gonna be over. The front counter that we had to reject the bids on, my guess is that might still come in a little bit over. We should have some capacity there. And I'm worried about the chiller over at the library that is an ARPA project. From a finance perspective, it's much easier if you have one project to have it fully funded by ARPA, just from an accounting and kind of reporting perspective. So using ARPA for this whole project really streamlines that process. And I just want to reiterate, we're not canceling the Wayland Road project, we're just shifting it to a different funding source. It is still included in the 2023 budget and would be carried over if it remains a priority of the council through the TID closure process.
All right. I have some questions, but I'll wait till council. Any other questions from committee discussion? All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have a list of the roads that are being resurfaced? Since we obviously have two different projects, it sounds like we're potentially gonna get a lot of roads done. Is that available?
There
somewhere?
was a list out there. I don't know, is there current?
Yeah, the city's website has a map. So if you go to the street resurfacing link, and I can forward that out to everyone, but there's a link with a map showing the streets that will be resurfaced. So between both contracts, there's 39 streets that are getting resurfaced.
Wow.
10 on this contract and 29 on the previous contract.
If you could send that out, that would be really helpful. Just,
To the entire country.
yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Will do.
All right. Any other questions? Discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us and to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next action item is 6F. Do I have a motion to move resolution R-150-23, approval to purchase replacement firefighting turnout gear?
I move approval.
All right, motion for approval made by Alder Wheeler, and Fire Chief is here. He
Yeah.
stepped up to the table, so the floor is yours.
So this is our annual purchase. Typically, our turnout gear lasts about 10 years, and so some of this is replacement, some of it is actual initial issue. We go out to bid every year, and this is the recommendation of our clothing committee or our protective equipment committee to proceed with this specification.
Very good. Any other comments from staff?
So Joe, all of our protective equipment for firefighters have no PFAS in it at all?
Oh, no, they do. They do. There's not a specification out there right now that allows us to have a PFAS-free ensemble, if you will. They're working on it. It's just right now the thermal protective qualities of those chemicals are still required. So as soon as we see something in the way of PFAS-free protective gear, we will start evaluating it. We just don't have it in the market right now.
I was just read an article that said that some of the firefighters, so old-time firefighters may be getting affected by it.
In addition to the smoke, the byproducts of combustion, the foams that we were using, and then our protective gear, there is a strong possibility of those chemicals being absorbed into the bloodstream, the transdermal progression, I guess, of disease processes happens as a result of our exposure. So yes, that still exists. One of the things that we are trying to do right now is to get out of that gear as soon as we possibly can after we're done using it for a fire.
Thank you.
All right, additional questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us then to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to our last action item, which is 6G. Do I have a motion to move Resolution R-151-23, Police Department Vehicle Purchases?
I move approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval made by Alder Gerhart. You have the floor.
This is a pre-approval for squad and fleet vehicle purchases. What we've learned in the last year is that the purchasing landscape has changed greatly, and the time frame for placing an order is relatively small, and the wait time is long. Some perspective on that is we went to place an order for 5 squads at the beginning of this year. We're told that the order window closed last August. It was a 3-week order window. We were lucky and bailed out by a Kaiser who had some extras on order that we were able to purchase from them. They had placed the order last August. It is now August 1 year later, and they still have not hit the production line at Ford. What we have found through our research is that the next order window for Ford this year for 2024 vehicles will open probably in October. It will be a 2-week purchase window. From that, we have a waiting game of when they appear, but that will be the only time we're going to order a squad. We have 4 squads we need to purchase, as well as an administrative fleet vehicle, all likely within a 2-week ordering window in October. No idea when they'll arrive, but we can't wait until January or February to place the order because it won't be possible.
Very good. Thank you, Lieutenant McCarthy. Questions, discussion from the committee?
Is this for the squad and the equipment also?
This is just the pre-approval for the squad. The equipment is still, that is a 12 to 16 week lead time from when we get the squads arrive.
Did the cost go up?
We're anticipating the prices to go up here from estimates we've had from various vendors around the country. They're giving a flat rate of $3,000 to $4,000 more potentially, so it's upwards of an 8 to 10% estimate. We have no idea until the pricing comes out. The annual or the contract through the state bid was supposed to come out in June, and it still has not come out because Ford or the dealers haven't necessarily released what that pricing is going to be. We're estimating on the high side of what it will be between $45,000 and $48,000 for a squad and $37,000 to $40,000 for a fleet vehicle.
Very good. Additional questions? All right. No additional questions. I'll place the motion before us then to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. That concludes the action items. We'll move on to item 7, announcements. The next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for August 22nd, 2023. And then our final adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll do Udell, I've got an announcement.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize. Go ahead.
No worries. I was just informed, and I wanted to make sure that this went on record, that with the new system in the council chambers, we had to move our meeting business to this particular room. And while the video was rolling for the first portion of the meeting held in the council chambers, there was no audio. So I just want to make sure that was publicly stated. Obviously, I know Misty is a very detailed note taker, so anyone who may be interested in any action that was taken prior to the transition to this room, they will need to refer to the meeting minutes. Easy for me to say. Any questions at all? No?
No.
All right, thank you.
All right. Additional announcements? Hearing none. Motion, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'm on adjournment.
Or did I say that already? Motion for adjournment made by Alder Wheeler. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6:50 p.m.